I'm Isabella, and I'm 27 years old. I have a creative job at a software company in Florida. It may seem like I have a simple life, but things at home are really complicated. A year ago, my dad's company suddenly went bankrupt. I had to go back to my hometown to live with my parents and my sister Mary. My family needs my money to get by. One evening, my mom began talking while we were sitting together. Isabella says she wants pork steaks for dinner tomorrow, she said. I let out a small sigh and said, "Oh, and we're low on money for groceries. We can't buy pork at all. Could you please help a little more with the food budget?" I frowned and said, "We have no money for food, and it's not even halfway through the month yet." Then Mary said, "Big sis, you're not giving enough money for food." I was really surprised. "What do you say? I'm giving $10,000. That should be plenty," I replied sharply. Mary made a funny noise. "Big sis, prices are up now. $10,000 is not enough for a family of 4 these days." I couldn't stop my frustration. "Only $10,000. Less than text if you have an issue with it. Why not find a job and help pay for your own food?" I replied quickly. Mom got involved and supported Mary. "Finding a job is tough. I feel sorry for Mary," she said. I felt really upset. Mary says she is looking for a job, but really she is just sitting around and not doing anything. Also, the money I give is quietly being given to Mary as spending money by my mom. "That's enough," I finally said. "If it's really tough to handle, why don't we sell this house and go back to Grandma's hometown? We might be able to get jobs there, and life could be easier." But Mom said no to that idea right away. "No chance. I'm not going back to that town," she said. "My grandma has a popular Italian restaurant in Miami where we can work and enjoy free pizza and pasta. Life would be simpler, but Grandma is very strict, especially about making pizza. My mom doesn't like this and doesn't want to do the tough job of making pizza." My dad always asks, "Why do we quickly ask Grandma for help when we should be taking care of ourselves?" That's just being pampered. I felt like screaming inside. How can they call me spoiled when I'm the one paying for everything and my sister doesn't even want to work? Mary should also find a part-time job. She is 25 years old, and many people have part-time jobs while they search for full-time work. I said this, but my mom quickly disagreed. "No, Mary helps at home, so she doesn't have time for a part-time job," she said. "What do you mean?" I didn't understand that at all. "What do you mean? I've never seen Mary do any cleaning around the house," I said. My dad jumped in. "Mary takes the dishes to the sink after eating, and she washes her own clothes. Sometimes she even gives me shoulder rubs," he said. I felt myself getting mad. The chores my dad talked about are things that even a small child can do. Every morning I get up early to make breakfast for my family and pack my dad's lunch. Also, I handle the household money and take care of the taxes. But my parents always like Mary more. They have always been nicer to her than to me since we were young. People say I'm nice-looking too, but Mary has always been seen as more graceful and charming. That's why our parents have always treated her differently. I know I should just leave, but it's not simple, and moving out is hard for me. I deal with this stress every day. One day I didn't notice that my sister had gone out of the house. I thought she just went out like she always does. But then the next day and the day after that, she was missing. I began to feel unsure. When I got home and was going to my room, I heard my parents talking in the living room. I was really surprised by what I heard. I am excited for the souvenirs from Louisiana. My mom said, "Mary is very lucky now, enjoying the nice beaches and eating at nice restaurants." "I want to go to Louisiana as well. Perhaps we can all go together next time," my dad said. I couldn't keep quiet any longer. "Hold on, what do you mean? Are you saying that Mary is in Louisiana at this moment? I asked, feeling puzzled. My parents stared at me, shocked. Yes, that's correct, they said. I was really surprised. But how? She has no money, I said. I have been trying not to shop or go out to save money. Oh, she got a trip from a contest, my mom said. Mary has always been lucky with things like that. It seems that Mary won a trip to Louisiana and I didn't know about it. I was surprised, so I chose to accept their explanation for now. The next day, while I was at work, I received a call from a credit card company that I didn't expect. I don't often use my credit card, so I was surprised when the company called to tell me about high charges in the last 4 days. I don't remember buying anything expensive. I felt nervous, so I asked how much had been spent. The customer support agent said it was $20,000 for 4 days. I immediately knew who was responsible. It must be my sister, Mary, having fun on her trip to Louisiana. She might have won the hotel stay and plane tickets, but she still needed cash for souvenirs and other stuff. I wanted to know the truth, so I called her. What's happening? Tell me what you mean, I said. Oh, I didn't expect you to call, sis, Mary joked. I thought you were waiting for your souvenirs. Stop playing around. You have been using my credit card without asking, right? I asked firmly. She looked like she didn't care at all. Did you see? It was an accident, she said in a relaxed way. I got more and more angry. I felt bad for not noticing earlier that someone had looked through my things. What was on your mind? Using a credit card without asking is against the law. I yelled. It could be a problem if it belonged to someone else, but we're family, Isabella. You really need to learn about these things, she said. How can you use $20,000 in only 4 days? That's a really big amount of money. So, apart from the free flight and hotel, I had to pay for everything else like activities, shopping, and meals. I went to nice restaurants, bought some name-brand things, and took cabs. I didn't even realize it, but I spent more than $20,000, she said easily. It's not right to spend that much money, Mary. What were you thinking? Why are you so angry? I used the card because it was going to run out soon. That's it, sis. You can take care of the bill, she said happily, then hung up the phone. I couldn't find the words to say anything. Everything happened really fast. After that, Mary kept trying to reach me, but I didn't respond to her. She left a message on my voicemail saying, I guess I really messed up this time. I'm really silly. I found it funny how relaxed she was about it. When I got home later that evening, my parents quickly came to say hello. Welcome back, they said. How can you stay so calm? My mom said, Mary's in a hard situation. Why did you cancel the card? She has a problem. What does that mean? She used my card without asking, so I had to stop it, I said. When the credit card company called, and I saw the charges I didn't know, I canceled the card immediately. It seems that Mary tried to use the card after it was blocked and got worried when it didn't work. She got mad at me, but when I kept ignoring her, she went to our parents for help. Your sister is in trouble in another country and you're not going to help her? My dad asked. Are you still saying that just because we're family, it's okay to use someone's card to spend $20,000? I asked. I don't think you should be so unkind, my mom said. Why are you so cold? Your attitude is why you don't get to go on trips. Mary wanted to buy us souvenirs with the card, so what's the problem? I was shocked by what I heard. You two are amazing. Why do you think like that? Do you talk in your sleep during the day? It's important to think clearly. She's having fun and thinking about us, and you still want me to be considerate. Caring. Can you still say that after you hear this? I took out my phone and listened to the voicemail my sister sent me. Mary's voice was very clear and easy to hear. Make the card work, you stingy person. My parents' cards are all used up, so I can't use them. You're being really stingy by not giving me any pocket money for this trip. How unhelpful can they be?" When my parents heard Mary's angry message, they didn't say anything. They got less angry fast and ran to their room to look at their credit cards. A little while later, I heard them yelling in fear. When I went to see them, their faces were red with anger. "I can't believe Mary took my card without asking after all we've done for her," my dad said angrily. "She also took the bank book and our cards. I feel really let down." "Oh?" I answered in a cold way. "Wasn't it meant to be a nice thing for Mary to buy you souvenirs? You mentioned she was thinking about us and trying to have fun for us, correct? Sure, that's what we believed. But our money is still safe, right?" My mom said quietly, not so sure. When I saw how fast their feelings changed when they found out their money was still safe, I couldn't hide my sadness. Why not just increase the card limit and pay off the balance so she can use it again? Just let the nice Mary who wants to buy you gifts have it, I said with a hint of sarcasm. "That can't happen," my mom said. "We have no savings now. What will we do? Mary is out there without any money for food or anything." After everything got crazy, my dad suddenly looked at me. "Isabella, can you please? Let's begin again. We will work together to help this family. Please help Mary," he asked. "What do you mean? Am I included now?" I asked in a sarcastic way. My mom knelt down in front of me because of what my dad said. I was surprised for a moment, but then I just had to laugh sadly. "It's a bit too late for sorries now," I said, but my mom kept asking me sincerely. "I promise I will change. I will try hard to help everyone from now on. I will never hurt you or her again," she said. Even with everything going on, I just couldn't help but laugh at how silly the situation was. When my parents went back to their room, I quietly took out my credit card. I wasn't sure what to do next. The plan. I found a credit card that was still good and had not been used before. I said, "How about giving this card to Mary and going on a family trip together?" My parents were very happy about the idea. They quickly got in touch with my sister, and everyone started to happily get ready for the trip. I booked their flights to Louisiana online while watching them and smiling. Once everything was ready, I called a specific number. The fallout. 5 days later, when my mom, dad, and sister came back from Louisiana, Mary said hello to me. "Hey, big sis. Thanks for letting us have fun in Louisiana. You don't come to pick us up very often. Are you waiting for souvenirs?" "I'm sorry, I didn't buy anything," she said happily. It was obvious they enjoyed themselves a lot and had already forgotten to say thank you for my help. When I saw this, I realized it was time to start my plan. I was so excited I could hardly hold it in. "It seems you really enjoyed yourself. Was that the biggest moment in your life?" I asked in a relaxed way. "What do you mean by last?" Mary asked, looking puzzled. "I have decided to sell the house," I said. "I have sent our things to the new place, and someone is coming to get us." My parents and sister were very surprised. They saw the "for sale" sign at the front of our house. "What? What is this thing? Did you actually sell the house? What is happening?" they asked. I told them more, looking at their surprised faces. "A real estate agent I know from university wanted this land for some time and had been asking to buy the house and land together. I used to say no because I thought it was better to keep the house, but I have changed my mind recently. I saw that selling this house and living by myself again would give me money and peace of mind. My parents were against it. You can't sell the house by yourself. That's against the law. This house is Dad's, not yours." I stayed calm and said, "Oh, you look really upset about it. But what if I said the house and land are really in my name?" "What?" they said, surprised. "Dad, do you remember when you had trouble paying the taxes and asked me for help? I said I would pay if we put the house in my name. Do you remember signing the papers back then?" Dad looked sad when the memory came back to him. "Oh, that's true," he said quietly. I kept explaining. "I stayed in this house because it was already mine. I was waiting for the best moment to take you all out so I could sell it. It was hard to find a chance because you were always at home, but when I sent you to Louisiana, I finally got my opportunity. Since everyone is out of the house, I can sell it now." Everyone was very surprised. "What?" they said in surprise. I said calmly, "Your luggage is already at the new place, so don't worry. The pickup is coming soon." "Pickup? What do you mean?" my mom asked, still not understanding. "Grandma is waiting for all of us. She's really happy to see you," I said with a smile. "Hold on, Grandma." "Are you talking about Mom?" my dad asked, his voice trembling. "Yes, I spoke with her and she said yes to taking everyone in. She really wants to help you understand things better. She also asked me to send your bags, so get ready to make pizza every day and clean at Grandma's restaurant." My parents and Mary were very surprised. "We can't visit Grandma. We really don't want to," Mary shouted. "Oh, I understand. Sure, you can do what you want, but without a home or work, how will you manage to live? And remember to pay the credit card bill. How will you pay it back?" "What do you mean?" my mom asked, looking a bit worried. "The card has your name on it. You thought it was under my name? Be more careful." "The card is really in another person's name," I said. "No way," my mom looked shocked as she pulled out the card and checked the name. Her eyes got bigger. "Hold on, this card belongs to Mary." "Right. I found the credit card in Mary's room and gave it to you. She got her first card when she started working, but she left that job not long after. It looks like she never used it." "What? I have spent too much money. What can I do now?" My mom got really worried. "Since Mary's name is on the card, she has to pay it off. You all have to work hard at Grandma's to pay for your stay and not cause any problems." Mary fought back until the last moment, but our parents, having no other choice, kept quiet and waited for Grandma to get there. A fresh start. When Grandma arrived, everyone went to her house and restaurant in Miami. With Grandma watching closely and her experienced workers helping, they learned to work hard, even crying sometimes. Mary paid back the $230,000 that was charged to my card, and Grandma was watching over everything. Even though I wanted to sort everything out by selling the house, Grandma was able to get back the living costs I had paid for and even took some of my parents' money to pay me back. Later, I moved into an apartment that was closer to my job and I could live alone again. My new life was going well, and I began to enjoy calm days. One evening I was on my balcony watching the city as the sun went down. I felt a sense of relief from the pressure I had been carrying for a long time. There was a little bit of loneliness, too. My phone rang and I paused when I saw Grandma's name on the screen. "Hi, Grandma," I replied. She wanted to know how I was. "Yes, I'm okay," I said. "That's good," she said. "I wanted to talk about Mary and your parents. They are beginning to change, especially Mary. She is helping a lot with the work now. Your parents are starting to think about things too," Grandma continued. "Isabella, I understand that this has been tough for you. I believe I get what you're feeling. Family can sometimes feel heavy, but it's also something we need to help. I hope you can forgive them one day." I heard what Grandma said. I could hear she was unsure and worried, but she also sounded very determined. "Take your time," she said softly. "Take your time and think about it. When you are ready." I nodded, even if she couldn't see me. "I get it, Grandma. I will take my time and think about everything," I said. Then I softly ended the call. I looked at the city as the sun went down, and the night slowly covered the buildings. I felt a lot of different emotions inside me. I still felt mad and sad. There was also a little bit of hope for what's to come. When I got back to my room, I noticed an old family photo. A young Mary and I smiled with our parents in it. Looking at those happy faces made me think of the fun times we had together before. I wished we could return to those days, but reality soon reminded me. A fresh beat. As time went on, my life started to find a nice, easy routine. I was put in charge of a new project at work. I began to feel happier in my personal life. One evening, after finishing my work for the day, my phone rang. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. I thought about it for a moment, but chose to reply. "Hi, I'm Isabella." "It's me," Mary said, a voice that sounded different from her usual confident and proud way of speaking. It felt gentler, less certain. Shocked, I said, "Mary, what is happening? Did something go wrong?" "I'm sorry for calling unexpectedly." Well, she began to speak. "I want to see you face to face. I want to talk to you," Mary said gently. Her voice showed a kindness and change that I didn't think she had. "Why you want to get together?" I asked softly, waiting for her reply. Mary's voice was shaky but calm and honest, showing how much she had changed. "Hey, big sis, I really want to say I'm sorry. I thought a phone call wouldn't really show how I feel. I want to meet you face to face so I can really say I'm sorry." I could tell she was really sincere. I listened quietly without interrupting. "If it's too difficult for you to meet me, that's fine. I just want to understand how you feel," Mary said. After a short pause, I answered at last. "Okay, let's get together next Sunday at 3:00 p.m. at the cafe close to the station." "Is that true? That makes me really happy." "Thanks, big sis," Mary said, feeling better. After I finished the call, I took a deep breath to think clearly. I wasn't sure if meeting her was a good choice, but inside, I hoped it could lead to something good. A get-together. I got to the cafe before our meeting time on the day we were supposed to meet. While I was sitting there, my heart was beating fast, and I felt both nervous and excited. The clock ticked slowly, but soon the cafe door opened and Mary came in. She appeared different. Her face had no makeup, her clothes were plain, and most importantly, her eyes showed real change. She came to my table slowly and started saying sorry right away. "Big sis, I am really, really sorry." At that moment, I noticed something different in her, and for a moment I didn't know what to say. "Mary, I started, but she just kept talking, trying not to cry. Working at Grandma's house showed me how much I depended on you. I didn't appreciate you enough all these years. I get it now. It's been tough for you, always putting us first and not thinking about yourself." She cried as she thought about what she had done and kept saying sorry from the heart. Mary shared with me how much she had depended on me in the past and the things she learned while working at Grandma's. She talked about her relationships with our parents and how much she had changed. I sat still, hearing what Mary said. As I spoke, the anger and sadness I had kept inside for a long time began to disappear. As she kept talking, I felt the strong feelings inside me start to go away. "Thanks, Mary. I really listened to what you said," I said. After that, we talked for a few hours about different things, what was going on in our lives and the problems we were dealing with. This talk seemed like a key step in fixing our relationship. A new chapter. Just before we left, Mary gave me an envelope filled with thanks. Inside was money she earned by working hard at Grandma's house. "This is only the start, but I will keep trying my hardest," she said. When I took the envelope, I felt how much she had grown, and it made me feel happy. After a few months, I went to Grandma's house again and saw my parents there. This time they said sorry for real, and I could tell they had changed, just like Mary. That evening, we all gathered for a family meal, which we hadn't done in a while. I felt happy to be with my family again. I understood that I couldn't forgive everything immediately, but watching my family try to change made me feel hopeful about what's to come. Before I went, Grandma told me some good advice. Isabella, you have become strong, but while that strength is very important, remember the kindness you still have. The most important thing is that. When Grandma hugged me, I felt so much that I started to cry. I felt this was the start of something new with my family, and my heart began to feel lighter. My name is Chloe, and I was 14 when my parents split up. It wasn't a big, dramatic breakup like in the movies. No yelling or tossing clothes out of windows, just two people who chose that they could not continue together. Dad moved to a different state. Mom began dating again pretty quickly. That's how Richard came into our lives. Richard looked nice at the beginning. He worked at a big company, wore nice clothes, and made my mom smile. But the way he looked at me made me feel uneasy from the very first day. Not in a strange way. Bad in a critical way. It felt like I was a problem he had to solve. Your daughter might need some help, I heard him say to Mom one evening about a month after he moved in. She's at a tough age. I stood in the hallway and I remember how my stomach turned when Mom said, I know, I'm really happy you're here to help. But it didn't help. It was criticism disguised as care, given with a smile that didn't really show any warmth. It began with small comments about my clothes or my hair. Then it got worse. I remember the first time he really touched my heart. It was at dinner around 6 months after he and Mom got married. I had on new jeans that I got with my allowance. Those jeans are feeling a little snug on you, right, Chloe? Richard said, stopping his fork in the air halfway to his mouth. You're getting bigger so quickly, he said. Then he said quietly but loud enough for me to hear, wider mainly. I felt my face get hot as tears almost came out. They should fit like this, I said. Oh, sweetie, Mom said quickly. Richard is just worried about how you are doing. Sometimes teenagers just don't see these things. That was how it went. Richard would say something mean, pretend it was caring, and Mom would support him every time. When I tried to explain how his comments affected me, she would shake her head and say I was too sensitive. You have to learn to take a joke, Chloe, she'd say while Richard sat there with his annoying little smile. He just wants to help you. I began to call Dad more frequently after that. My Skype calls were very important to me. He would listen to me, truly listen, without trying to justify Richard's actions or saying I was overreacting. He paid alimony on time, and I found out later that it was quite a lot. But money couldn't solve the problems at home. My life changed a lot when my half-brother came into the world. I was 17, trying to concentrate on my last year of high school, while our home changed into a place that celebrated Richard's ideal family, without me, of course. Mom was really focused on the baby. I understand. He was small and adorable and needed a lot of care. It felt like I turned invisible all of a sudden. People only seemed to pay attention to me when something bad happened. I accidentally woke the baby when I closed my bedroom door too loud. I thought Richard would get worse after the baby was born and find more ways to criticize me. But something surprising happened. He began to travel for work a lot. Those business trips really helped me a lot. The house felt better when he left, like I could finally breathe easy. Even Mom looked more calm, but she was still counting the days until he came back. Since Richard was gone a lot, my senior year was better than I thought it would be. I paid attention to my studies, became part of the yearbook committee, and began to make plans for college. Actual plans, not just dreams about getting away. On graduation day, Dad kept his promise and came to see me. He sat in the crowd, smiling with happiness as I walked across the stage to receive my diploma. Mom was there too, with the baby and Richard. I searched the crowd for Dad's face. After the ceremony, Dad took me to the side. "I really meant what I said earlier, Clove," he said to me, putting his hands on my shoulders. "You can choose any college you like. I will do it. You deserve it." I had sent applications to a few colleges, hoping that one would say yes to me. They all did, and I was surprised. But I knew just the one I wanted, the one in Dad's city. Far enough so I wouldn't need to come home a lot, but near enough to someone who really cared about me. I waited until dinner to tell Mom and Richard. We sat at the table. Mom was giving my brother food while Richard talked about how bad the airline food was from his recent trip. "I got accepted to all the colleges I applied to," I said during a quiet moment. "I'm going to accept the offer from Marshall University." Mom paused with the baby spoon midair. That's where your father lives, isn't it?" I nodded, bracing myself for their reaction. "Well, Richard said, that familiar mocking smile spreading across his face, looks like your father finally managed to do something useful with his life. Paying for college, who would have thought?" I gripped my fork so hard my knuckles turned white. The urge to yell back at him, to tell him exactly what I thought about his useful contribution to my life, was almost overwhelming. But I held my tongue. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me lose my cool. Mom let out a small sigh of what sounded suspiciously like relief. Maybe she was glad to finally have me out of the way. Free to focus on her real family without the complicated reminder of her previous marriage hanging around. The next morning, I packed everything I could fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. Mom was too busy with the baby to notice me hauling my bags downstairs. Richard had already left for work. Dad arranged for a car service to pick me up. By that evening, I was standing in front of his house. A beautiful 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch. It was so different from the cramped house I'd left behind. But it wasn't just the size that struck me. It was the warmth. Sarah, Dad's fiancée, was waiting at the door with him. She wasn't what I'd expected. She was younger than Mom, with bright red hair and paint-stained jeans. She gave me a huge hug like we were old friends. "We've got your room all set up," she said, grabbing one of my bags. "I hope you don't mind, but I might have gone a bit overboard with the decorating." The room was perfect. Peaceful blues and grays with a window seat overlooking the backyard. No baby crying. No Richard's critical comments. No walking on eggshells. Just peace. Mom called that night after she found my note. "You could have said goodbye properly," she said, sounding hurt. "Your brother was looking for you all day." "He's 2, Mom. He'll forget I was ever there soon enough." I spent those first few weeks settling into my new life, getting to know Sarah better. She was an art teacher at the local high school and had this way of making everyone feel comfortable. We'd stay up late sometimes, drinking hot chocolate and talking about everything and nothing. Despite Dad's offers to support me completely, I wanted to be independent. I found a job at the Daily Grind, a busy cafe near the house. It wasn't glamorous work, but I enjoyed it. The regular customers were nice, my coworkers were fun, and the tips were decent. When fall came, I moved into the dorms at Marshall University. My roommate, Jenny, was a music major from Chicago. She practiced violin at odd hours, but always brought me coffee when she came back from her early morning rehearsals. I was studying business administration and actually enjoying my classes, working at the cafe between lectures and study sessions. A year passed like this, and I was happy. Really happy. Until one ordinary Tuesday afternoon at the cafe changed everything. I was clearing tables when I heard a familiar laugh, one that made my stomach drop. There, At a corner table was Richard. But he wasn't alone. And he definitely wasn't on a business trip. He was with a woman I'd never seen before. And they were kissing like teenagers on a first date. "Hey, Lisa," I whispered to my coworker, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Can you take table 12? I need to take my break." I ducked into the back room, my heart pounding. Through the small window in the door, I could still see them. My hands were trembling as I pulled out my phone and started recording. Richard was holding the woman's hand across the table now, looking at her the way he used to look at Mom in the early days. When they finally left, Lisa found me still hiding in the back. "What was that about?" she asked, looking concerned. "Did you know those people?" "The man?" I said carefully, "I know him. I just didn't want him to see me working here." "Do you know who the woman was?" Lisa's eyes lit up with gossip. "Oh my God, yes, that's Catherine Morrison. Everyone knows her. She's always in the local news for her charity work and business success." That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Richard kissing that woman kept playing in my mind like a bad movie. Around midnight, I grabbed my laptop and opened social media. My fingers trembled as I typed Catherine Morrison into the search bar. Her profile popped up immediately, verified checkmark and all. CEO of Richmond Technologies, I read aloud to myself in the darkness of my dorm room. This was the same company where Richard worked. Catherine Morrison wasn't just some woman he was seeing. She was his boss, the director of the entire company. He wasn't just having an affair. He was sleeping with his own superior. I scrolled down her timeline, and that's when things got worse. Much worse. There was Richard in photo after photo. Him at company events, always standing close to Catherine while other employees maintained a respectful distance. Him at what looked like vacation spots. Him holding a little boy, maybe around 3 years old, both of them grinning at the camera. The caption under one particularly painful photo read, "My 2 favorite men in the world. Can't wait to make it official soon. #blessed #family #engagement." I kept scrolling and the evidence kept mounting. There were photos going back years. Years. All those business trips Richard took. All those times Mom was home alone with my brother. He'd been building a whole separate life, complete with another child. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone as I started saving the photos one by one. I downloaded them all, including screenshots of the captions. There was Richard at what looked like the boy's birthday party. Richard and Catherine at Christmas dinner. Richard pushing the little boy on a swing. One photo in particular made me pause. It was from about 6 months ago, showing Richard, Catherine, and their son at some kind of carnival. The caption read, "Sometimes the perfect family comes when you least expect it. So thankful my Prince Charming was patient enough to wait for the right moment to start our family together. #DrewLove, #destined. Patient enough to wait. He hadn't been waiting. He'd been lying, living 2 completely different lives, juggling 2 families like some sick circus act. And based on Catherine's posts, she had no idea she was the other woman. She truly believed she found her fairy tale ending with her handsome subordinate who'd stolen her heart. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. The Richard in these photos was so different from the man I knew. Here he was, smiling real smiles, not those smirks he always gave me. He looked happy, genuinely happy, playing with his secret son, hugging his secret fiancée, living his secret life. "Oh, Mom," I whispered to my empty room. "What has he done to us?" I checked the time. Almost 3:00 a.m. I had an early class tomorrow, but sleep was the last thing on my mind. I needed to make sure I had every bit of evidence saved. Mom would need to see this. The truth needed to come out, even if it was going to hurt everyone involved. A week later, I found myself on a train headed home. The evidence was still burning a hole in my phone, and my stomach was in knots. I hadn't told Dad where I was going. He wouldn't have understood why I needed to do this. Mom looked genuinely surprised when she opened the door. "Chloe, we weren't expecting you." My little brother was toddling around her legs, and for a moment it felt almost normal. Then Richard appeared behind them. "Well, well," he said, that familiar mocking tone already creeping into his voice. "Don't tell me you got kicked out of college for failing grades and need to come crawling back home." Mom laughed like it was the funniest joke she'd ever heard. "Richard, stop it. I'm sure Chloe's doing fine at school. Aren't you, honey?" I forced a smile. "I'm on the dean's list, actually." "Of course you are," Richard smirked, looking me up and down. "Say, those jeans keep getting bigger and bigger every time I see you. Is that the new style now?" The baggy look. I bit my tongue. I'd actually lost weight since starting college. All those shifts running around the cafe had toned me up considerably, but Richard never missed a chance to make digs about my appearance. The comments continued all day. Every time I moved, every time I spoke, Richard had something to say. When Mom served dinner, it got even worse. "Whoa there, Chloe," he exclaimed as I put some mashed potatoes on my plate. "Save some for the rest of us." I kept eating silently, watching him out of the corner of my eye. This man who sat here mocking me was the same one who'd been playing happy families with his boss just last week. The same man who had another child. Another life. "Honey," he turned to Mom with an exaggerated, concerned expression. "If Chloe's going to visit more often, we might need to invest in a second refrigerator." Mom giggled, gazing at him with such adoration it made my chest hurt. She really had no idea. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, loaded with proof of his betrayal. Should I show her? Looking at her face, so full of love for this man who'd been lying to her for years, I hesitated. After dinner, I headed upstairs to my old room, my mind still wrestling with what to do. But Richard's voice stopped me on the stairs. "Where do you think you're going?" I turned around, confused. "To my room." "Your room," he laughed. "That's my office now. We converted it months ago. Didn't your mother tell you?" Mom appeared in the hallway, bouncing my brother on her hip. "Oh, I forgot to mention it." "I can sleep on the couch," I offered, trying to keep my voice steady. Richard shook his head. "You'll be in the way. Better head back to campus tonight." I looked at Mom, waiting for her to disagree, to stand up for me, to offer some alternative. Instead, she just nodded. "Richard's right, sweetie. It would probably be better if you found somewhere else to stay tonight." Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the way Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Or maybe it was Richard's smug expression. But I'd had enough. "Why do you always do this?" I turned to Mom, my voice shaking. "Why you always take his side? Can't you see how he treats me? How he's always treated me?" Mom shifted my brother to her other hip, looking uncomfortable. "Chloe, you're being dramatic. Richard just likes to joke around. You've always been too sensitive." "Joke around." I let out a bitter laugh. "Is that what you call constant mockery? The comments about my weight, my clothes, my life. He hates me, Mom. He's always hated me, and you've never once stood up for me." Richard stepped forward, that insufferable grin still on his face. Now, Chloe, let's not turn this into one of your teenage tantrums." "Shut up." My hands were trembling as I pulled out my phone. You don't get to talk anymore. I pulled up the first photo and held it up to his face. The effect was immediate. All the color drained from his cheeks. What's that? Mom asked, peering at the screen. Richard, what's wrong? Would you like to explain to Mom what kind of business trips you've been taking? I swiped to the next photo, the one of him with his other son. Or maybe you'd like to tell her about your fiancé. You know, your boss at Richmond Technologies, the one you have a child with. Mom's mouth fell open. The room was so quiet I could hear the tick of the wall clock. That's not. Richard stammered, his smirk finally gone. Not what? Not your son in these photos. Not you kissing Catherine Morrison. Not your engagement announcement from 2 weeks ago. I turned to Mom. He's been living a double life for years, Mom. All those business trips. He's been with his other family, his other son, planning his wedding to another woman who has no idea he's already married. You're lying, Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I wish I was. He's been cheating on you with his boss. They have a 3-year-old son together. She thinks he's single. That they're going to get married. Stop it. Mom's scream made my brother start crying. Stop these horrible lies. How dare you? How dare you make up such disgusting stories about Richard? Mom, I have proof. Look at the photos. Look at the dates. Look at. I don't want to look at anything. You've always hated Richard. You've always tried to come between us. You're just jealous because he's a better father to your brother than your own father ever was to you. Her words hit me like a slap. I stood there stunned as she stormed to the front door, yanked it open, and threw my backpack onto the front lawn. Get out. She was crying now, her face red with anger. Get out of our house. I don't want to hear any more of your lies. I walked toward the door, my legs feeling like lead. As I passed Richard, I saw his smile had returned, bigger than ever. He leaned close as I passed, his voice low enough that only I could hear. Your mother will always believe me over you, Chloe. Remember that. I spent the entire train ride back to campus in a daze, my mother's words echoing in my head. The next morning, after a sleepless night, I opened my laptop and navigated to Catherine Morrison's social media profile. My cursor hovered over the message button for a long moment before I finally clicked. Miss Morrison, I have some important information about your fiancé that you need to know. Would you be willing to meet in person? Her response came within an hour. Regarding Richard, of course. Is everything okay? We agreed to meet at the Daily Grind, her suggestion, ironically enough. She had no idea I worked there, that I'd first discovered her existence in that very cafe. I arrived early for my shift, changed into my uniform, and waited. At exactly 2:00 p.m., Catherine Morrison walked through the door. Catherine? I approached her table. I'm Chloe. Her smile was genuine, warm even. Please, sit down. You seemed concerned in your message. What's this about Richard? I took a deep breath. Before I show you something, I want you to know that I'm sorry. I really am. Her smile faltered. Sorry about what? I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. This is my mother, I said, showing her a recent family photo. And this is her husband, Richard, my stepfather. Catherine stared at the photo, her perfectly manicured hand frozen halfway to her coffee cup. I don't understand. He's been married to my mom for years. They have a 2-year-old son together, my little brother. I swiped to another photo. This was taken at Christmas. No, she shook her head. No, that's impossible. Richard isn't married. He told me he's never been married. We're getting married in the spring. We have a son. I know about your son, I said gently. And I know Richard told you he was single. He's been living a double life, husband and father in one city, fiancé and father in another. She sat quietly for a while, her coffee getting cold. All this time, she said softly. All those work trips. Is he going home to take care of his sick mother? He was heading home to his wife and his other child. She laughed in a way that showed her anger. Oh no, I really messed up. I gave him 3 promotions. He became the regional director. I believed he cared for me. I'm sorry, I said again, because I didn't know what else to say. Don't do that. She stood up straight, putting on her CEO face again. Thanks for being honest with me. I realize now he was only using me for my job and my power. She got up and collected her things. I need to make some calls now. Thanks, Chloe. Seriously. I saw her leave the cafe, her heels making a sound on the floor, her head up high. Even with everything that happened, I felt she was stronger than my mom. She might have to accept the truth. A week after I met Catherine, my phone rang. It was Mom, and before I could say anything, she was yelling. Are you feeling happy now? Her voice was really loud, so I had to keep the phone away from my ear. Are you happy now? You messed up everything. Mom, what is it? He got fired. That woman, his boss, she made him lose his job. They checked all his work and found some problems. They are giving him a big fine of thousands of dollars. His job is done. She was crying now, her words coming out with shaky breaths. No good company will hire him again, and it's all because of you. I sat on my dorm room bed, feeling my legs get weak all of a sudden. Mom, he was not being honest with you. He had another family and a child. He was going to marry her. You don't get it at all. She stopped talking to me. He's the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. The greatest dad your brother could ask for. How can you try to ruin that? He was taking advantage of both of you. You and Catherine. He was just using everyone for his own gain. Can't you see that? Don't say things like that about him. Her voice became very cold. You shouldn't judge the man I love more than anything else in this world. Mom, please. I don't have a daughter. The words came out quickly. In my opinion, you are no longer a part of my life. The call ended. I sat there for a long time, looking at my phone, with tears falling down my face. Jenny saw me like that when she returned from class. Wow, Chloe, what's going on? I shared all my thoughts with her. She hugged me while I cried, made me tea, and helped me call Dad. He and Sarah came over that night just to see how I was doing. You did the right thing, Sarah kept saying, holding my hand. Sometimes doing the right thing feels really painful, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong choice. 1 year has gone by since that time. I'm still at Marshall University, doing well in my classes and working at the cafe. Dad and Sarah had a little wedding by the lake. It was lovely, and I was the maid of honor. Sarah is going to have a baby now. I will have a little sister soon. I get updates about Mom and Richard from friends we both know back home. He didn't get another corporate job. People started talking about the audit results. He began to drink a lot and get into fights at bars. Mom needed to find a job at the nearby supermarket to help take care of them. My little brother goes to daycare now because they can't pay for a nanny like before. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I think about whether I should feel bad. If I had stayed quiet, maybe everyone would be happier. Mom would still be happy not knowing. Richard would still keep his job. My brother would have a better home. But then I think about Richard's smile when Mom kicked me out. He spoke softly. "Your mom will always trust me more than you." I think back to all the years of his quiet unkindness, his control. He turned everything around to make me feel little. No, I don't feel bad for them. Sometimes that's just how the truth is. It doesn't think about being easy or cozy. It simply is. Richard made his life based on untruths, and when those untruths fell apart, he could only point the finger at himself.